Hello and welcome to Back to Basics with Sandra and Lyndall. Today we have a very special guest, Miss Lena Moxon, owner of Geelong Boxing Club and the Lena Moxon Mindset Coaching and Somatic Healing. Lena, welcome.
I am so excited to be here, guys. Thank you.
It's lovely to have you. So today we wanted to get a guest on that, had experience within the mindset coaching and life coaching sort of industry, because we did actually do an episode on this. I believe it was episode 4, which we will link below, where we actually had a discussion between myself and Sandra in regards to mindset coaching and life coaching and whether it's actually worth it. And we also discussed the pressure on personal trainers and fitness coaches to also be life coaches. Mm-hmm. So it's really great to have you on to kind of get your perspective on it as well. But you guys are actually friends.
Yes, bestest friends. Well, we've known each other for how long now? Like 14 years, maybe 15, maybe even longer. And I think the biggest thing for me is just seeing your evolution. I'm not going to say transformation, because it hasn't been like an overnight transformation. It's been like a journey, a complete journey. And I remember visiting you in Geelong like last year, was it maybe? Or
October last year.
And I think the biggest shock for me was seeing how different your life is now, and how much better and happier, more content you are compared to when you were here in the rat race and living a different life. Yeah. So I guess for our listeners and people that don't know you, let's just touch on what the last few years has been like.
The last few years has been wild. Yeah. Like, I'm going to say the last 6 years. Mm-hmm. And I offer myself as the example of what would happen if you woke up one day and looked around at your life, could acknowledge that it was good, but also couldn't ignore the fact that none of it actually felt resonant to you.
Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of people have had
those moments.
Yeah.
And then what would happen if you decided to say, fuck this shit, genuinely.
Yeah.
And not take a holiday, not get a haircut, not buy something new, but actually decided, like, I want none of this, and I'm willing to find out what might become available for me if I actually let go of it all. Mm-hmm. And I did that. And it was like walking through fire. And it's not necessarily something that I recommend to all people. I think you have to be really ready and prepared for what it takes to initiate yourself into a chosen life. But I decided, I think I was about 29 years old, that I had just spent too much of my life feeling like it was an unlived life, that I was participating in my life. I wasn't actively like immersed in the experience of living, and that I was constantly waiting for my big life.
Yeah, crazy.
That's such a really interesting perspective, because every now and then I feel like that myself.
Yeah.
But I'm also, on one hand, I'm like, am I just tired? And am I just exhausted? Or is this really not the life that I want? And I think for a lot of people, if they do feel like that, taking that step to change their life is scary. Yeah. And I'm sure for you
and it doesn't happen in a moment. Absolutely. It's terrifying. And what's most terrifying is that most people around you will validate you in the moment that you say, there's this awareness that I'm actually unhappy, but is it that I'm just tired?
Yeah.
Most people around you will be feeling the same. And so we validate it and say, like, yes, life is hard.
It happens.
Living in the city is hard.
Yeah.
All of this. And so we kind of will just like justify and validate this existence that has us just like numbing ourselves out to what we're actually feeling. The wisdom that comes up within us that goes like, none of this feels good. Might look good. It might be working. Yeah. I might be producing great results in my life, but I actually can't feel any of this like perceived success that I'm creating for myself.
So interesting. So I guess before like this whole big change happened to you, you were the owner of some other franchise gyms as well. So what was that experience like for you?
It was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
I don't shit on or shame any part of my journey. And I don't think anything has to necessarily be wrong in order for us to choose something different for ourselves. So I was brought into the fitness industry through my partner, basically. So my first husband and I met when we were 18 years old, and I was going to study teaching at university, which I did. And it was kind of a conversation for him. He was in that kind of space when you're 18 where you don't really know what you want to do.
And you have to go to uni.
It was never, I was the girl that kind of like ticked all the boxes.
Same.
You know, and we speak from a deep place of privilege when we're saying like, oh, I had to go to uni. Like that's such a terrible, difficult thing that we've been positioned to do. Like I'm so aware. When I tell my story, there's always this part of me that feels deeply uncomfortable because it is soaking with privilege for us to be living a life that goes like, I had everything that I wanted. All my needs were met. It was good. And I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you get judged? You still get...
I judge myself for it. And I check myself for it. And I have completely changed the intention of my life. It's all about a life of service now. Yeah. It's not, how does this serve me? We can talk about jumping around with stories, but one of the things that I hear and see online all the time is people saying like, I'm not going to do that anymore because it doesn't serve me. Serve you, my sweet queen? Yeah. Life is supposed to show up and serve you constantly, right? I have a different perspective now. So I recognize the privilege and I judge myself for the privilege and I check myself with that privilege every day and ask myself, well, what are you doing with it?
I can relate to that in some way because I think when I was growing up, my parents wanted everything for me that they necessarily didn't have.
Yes.
And that included the highest quality education. Yes. That included me going to year 12. That included me going to university. Yes. And that wasn't the life that I wanted. I'm a very creative person.
Are you the oldest?
I'm the oldest. Yes. So I definitely had to experience the shit to make way for my younger brother. So I feel like he got it easy in regards to my life. But, you know, not to complain about that at all. But I really had to make my parents see that that wasn't the life that I wanted. And I respected the fact that they wanted what they thought was best for me. But I didn't want that life. You know, I'm not the sort of person that can sit in front of a lecture and take it in, you know. And I also didn't want a job that required me to go to university either. Yeah. So for me, taking that step was kind of a big thing for my parents as well, because they kind of had this vision of what, you know, the perfect upbringing was that they didn't have. And they wanted that for me. So I can kind of relate to your story in a way in regards to that. Like,
well, my brother's copped that. Like, he's the older one. So he copped the, like, you have to fit into this cookie cutter. You have to have, you know, what they thought we were going to provide for you, everything that we didn't have growing up. And he couldn't see that. So I think I understand where you're coming from, because he probably had something in him that wasn't what they wanted. So he'd have a tutor come to the house and he'd wait outside until the tutor, like, to go, because he didn't want to study. Yeah. He wanted to be creative. He wanted to be a sportsman. He wanted to do all that. And they wanted him to do the sportsman stuff, but then also excel in studies when he couldn't do both. So he struggled to fit into that. And you know the struggle of, you know, it's still with him today. Yes. But then me, I'm kind of free to do whatever I want. So I kind of hate that they didn't spend that much time on me when I was younger. Yes. But now I'm like, yep, it's actually what was meant to happen,
it's
right?
not just our family that frames what we think we have to do. So much of the conditioning that we're kind of just like the living embodiment of comes from what we've seen on TV, what society says, if you're religious, what the expectation is there. And I know what I was saying. my partner at the time, who was 18, it was kind of like, well, what are you going to do? He had jobs and he was working, but there was no sense of a future for him. For me, I had like the clear path. Yeah. And I think for a lot of us in our generation, it was like, as long as you knew where you were heading, everyone was like, good job. You get the pat on the head, off you go in the right direction. He didn't have that. His interest was in training and sport. And so I had encouraged him to go and become a personal trainer. And that's how it all started. And he was employed within a franchise and we saw the potential for growth. We came into the industry when it was very much still kind of like growing and expanding in terms of like trainers becoming franchise owners. And so that
was a big deal.
It was we were 22 years old.
Yeah, he was so young. I remember, and we're like, you guys are so successful. Yeah. Like, you were the like picture perfect. It looks picture perfect.
And it was. Yeah. It genuinely, I'm so proud of it. And I'm so proud of us, because we sat there and we kind of just felt into the expansive energy of what could be if we had the audacity to believe, well, why not us? And what I'm most proud of is that it wasn't necessarily easy. We kind of had to like fight our way through it in different ways. But for me, I kind of got brought into that industry, not because I chose it for myself necessarily, but I think because I valued the capacity that I had to support somebody else, to activate the belief within themselves, to be the person by their side being like, you can do this, we can do this. And as it took off, it felt really good to be doing it together and then to be surrounded by other people who were very much within the same energy of like, let's fucking crush this. Yeah. And genuinely, time and space like bent itself, and there is 10 years of my life that feels like it just went
Finished,
like that.
right?
It went fast. There was multiple franchises. We took it to New Zealand. It became the defining factor of us and our relationship from the outside. If you ask anybody about the relationship that I had with my first husband, that's the thing that they will talk about.
And we almost said your names in sync at the same time. It was never just you or him. It was you and him, and in the same sentence, in like his name and your name, it was rolled off the tongue. Yeah, crazy.
The huge learning curve for me was how willing I was to be the one to stand behind and to activate and push forward, and how that really bit me on the ass in the end, because I wasn't seen amongst any of the efforting that it genuinely took for us, not only to create what we created, but to withstand all the trials and tribulations that came with it.
Yeah. And how did that kind of like affect your like confidence or self-esteem or anything later on?
It didn't really affect me until the relationship ended. And it bit me in the ass because I wasn't seen and respected in the light that I believe I was deserved to be seen and respected, in terms of like what I should have been able to claim in terms of like input.
Yeah. I feel like you kind of went into like a hole, almost like you disappeared from social media, and you just
left
were
the
like
country.
you never you didn't speak to anyone. You cut off your friendships and stuff, and I think one day I called, we messaged each other, and I'm like, how are you? And you're like, separated and broke. And I was like, what? I was like, you literally, I think we could scroll through my Instagram messages, and I think that's exactly what you said, and I was mind blown. I had Leon, I just had given birth. I think we were on the phone for like 90 minutes. It was absolute insanity. So
wow. So I guess that kind of whole experience of, you know, owning a gym and working within a gym as well, like you would have seen quite an array of different clientele come through that gym. And that's, would you say that's kind of like your first experience with really looking at different mindsets?
It was. So one of my main roles within the business was that initial consultation, trying to get people to see the value in what we could offer them. And I very quickly became aware of the fact that I understood the main goal that people were coming in for, but I could also see that the weight loss goal or the physical appearance transformation that they wanted to make was just like a little starting point for what they actually genuinely wanted to experience or know of themselves or claim for themselves in their life. And I became almost obsessed with cracking that exterior of like, oh, I'm here because I want to lose 20 kilos, to getting to the part of the conversation where they were saying like, I have no self-confidence, I can't talk to anybody, I feel so lonely, I'm scared I'm never going to have kids because I'm not going to have a partner, and no. That part of the conversation, like getting to that part of the conversation and knowing, okay, now we have the driving force behind why you're here. And now this is going to really support you in actually following through, taking action on your intentions. That became like something that I was like obsessed with understanding.
Because I think within a lot of our clients come through with aesthetic goals, they haven't dived deep enough to explore all of those things to really have something strong enough and be able to attach a why to their goal. And I think this is the reason, and you know, you don't have to agree with me, but this is the reason that a lot of people fail on their goals as well, because they don't dive deep enough into the reasons behind why they want to achieve this goal. Like for me, trying to be a size 8 or fit into a dress size or something like that, that's not a strong enough goal for me.
And it doesn't mean anything, right?
To work hard to get there. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of clients do that. Oh, I want to lose 20 kilos. You know, what's your experience with that?
I would 100% agree. And there's kind of like two different factors. So either what you're saying, the goal actually isn't as meaningful as it feels, or it's just a replication of something that they've been told they should do or that they've seen somebody else do. They look at somebody else and they think like, okay, she looks put together. She's got some of the things that I want. What is it about her? Oh, it must be, oh, she recently lost weight that much. Okay, let me do that thing. So there's a kind of like misunderstanding about what it means to kind of, I don't know, claim a sense of fulfillment and happiness within yourself and what that takes. But often what it is they have some awareness around what the goal really is about, and they get really scared that they can't actually achieve that, have that, hold that for themselves. So they abandon the whole project altogether because they don't want to think about it. They don't want to focus on it.
Is that fear of failure? What is that?
It's a lot of different things. No, it's not even a fear of failure. Okay. Failure becomes the more comfortable experience for them. Okay. That's when we talk about, like, you hear all the time fear of success. And we're like, what the fuck would somebody be afraid of success? And it's because they don't have as much experience in the embodiment of what they actually desire for themselves. we have experience and reference point for how it feels to not believe in ourselves necessarily, or to feel like shit, or to use that as an excuse for why we don't show up in the world in a certain way. For so many women that have come to me that simultaneously have like a business goal, particularly now that everything's like happening on social media, and they have a weight loss goal. What is most interesting is they say, well, I need to lose X amount of weight before I can show up confidently on socials. But actually they're just terrified.
I was like that, yeah.
They're actually just terrified. What if I can't actually do the thing in business that I really hope that I can do, and I can't change my life and I'm stuck in this 9-to-5 job forever? So let me just play around this goal so I don't actually have to find out.
Do the other thing that
we
you
had
have
conversations
to do.
like this when you were about to start your business.
Yeah.
Like, am I ready? Do I need to do X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
Don't distract yourself with that.
Exactly. Just do the thing.
Yeah.
Do the damn thing.
Yeah.
When we did, because you've done some work with the girls that I work with in my programs, I love that, you know, one of the things was, like, what is that underlying goal? And mindset coaching blew a lot of them away. They were like, and I think you did some one-on-ones with some of the girls as well, but you can't, and we spoke about this, you can't just like dabble in it and I think, and then think it's going to transform your life completely because you've done like 6 sessions or something.
Yes.
Right? Like it has to be a continual thing where you're constantly working on it.
Yes.
Your mindset can't just, it's not a switch. You can't just switch it on and off.
And it's not something that you're trying to achieve. It's not like I'm going to have a positive mindset and now I have this positive mindset. It becomes, I have an understanding of the way that my internal dialogue and my operating system is affecting the reality that I'm experiencing. And once I understand that, technically I can be my own coach, my own therapist, my own guide. And so for me, mindset coaching isn't so much about me being like, say these affirmations, do this thing, operate in this way. It's like holding the mirror up to somebody and letting them see like everything that is going on within you is what you are experiencing on the outside. That's the shift. And I think that's what's missing within the industry when there are people stepping into the role of mindset coach that truly don't understand like what the long game is.
Yeah, because they throw it around a lot. Hey, everyone's a mindset coach.
Yeah, everyone's a mindset coach these
mindset
days.
training.
The other thing that I think is really important, and this is like integrity is really important to me in terms of like, I don't think there's necessarily qualifications anybody needs to be able to best support somebody. And I'm careful what I say because I think of all the things that we can do in our life and in the world, if your intention is actually to help somebody, it's a good thing. Yeah. And even if you're not doing, even if it's imperfect and you're not doing a great job, it's a much better job than what you could, you know, choose to be doing in some ways, right? But I think for me, I always kind of feel like, oh, this person isn't quite yet to guide or mentor or coach as powerfully as I would like to see if they're still fixated on mindset work being about being positive. And finding a positive outlook. For me, it's about knowing and understanding I can be with whatever sensation, whatever emotion, whatever thought that is arising within me and be okay with that. Be in the full experience and expression of that and learn how to be with that.
I love that. So how did you yourself get into like mindset coaching and that like business side of things?
Oh God, out of desperation myself.
Truly. About this the other day. Yeah.
Truly. Yeah. Like I think for me it was like when I was 22 years old and I was stepping in to the arena of being a franchise owner. And why I say that was a great experience is because I was like given these books and taken to these workshops and shown these things, but it was very much like hustle culture. I was like School of Grant Cardone, that 10 times
and
rule.
And people wear it as a badge of honor and I hate that.
100%, right? Yeah. So I did all that, and although it genuinely created so much harm and dysfunction within my body and my mind and myself, I also realized how much you could align yourself to other people and their ways of being and actually like skyrocket and excel and replicate what they were doing. And I found that really fascinating that other people's influence could make such a huge difference. And when I recognized and realized for myself, far out, so many of the ways that I'm operating, the way that I'm talking to other people, this isn't even my voice anymore. Like I sound like Tim Ferriss, I sound like Grant Cardone, I sound like Tony Robbins. What the fuck? Like how did I become this puppet of hustle culture? I became far more conscious around, okay, who do I want to learn from? Who are my guides? Who are my mentors? Who do I want to influence me? And I think if you're going to get a mindset coach or a coach in any area, it's not just about what have they achieved, it's who has impacted and influenced them. Where have they gone to school, so to speak? Because you're not ever just like experiencing one person. We're experiencing like
multitude.
If you can imagine, like as I'm talking, it's like those paper dolls that you cut out, like you cut and you like, that's what it is. And so I became far more mindful and conscious of like, okay, who do I want to learn from? What sort of person do I want to be? What are their values? How do I want to move in the world? And it was, I ended up 10 years into my own journey. I've retrained with the Dharma Coaching Institute, which is a completely different thing. It's not so much about mindset for like productivity and hustle and grind. It's how do I turn inward and understand what's at the base of my being and what my Dharma is, my life's purpose, and let that come through as expression.
Because I think when I've been to a few of those kind of big events for those, big kind of life gurus, so to speak, and I walk out of there, yes, I feel inspired when I walk out of there, but I also walk out of there going, I should be doing more.
Yeah,
like, I need to be doing more. I'm not doing enough.
Yes.
To be successful, this successful version of myself.
Yes.
Like I need to do X, Y, and Z to like get there. You know what I mean? And then I walk out of there kind of feeling like a bit stressed and anxious because I feel like I'm not doing enough.
And you have to, sorry.
No, you're right. And then you kind of like, I know what you're saying, because then I kind of question like, what have I been doing for the past 2 years?
Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Am I taking the right steps?
Which is a beautiful thing, right? And in some ways we tap into potential and possibility and that expanded energy, but we have to be very careful. And this is where like you lift the veil on some things and you realize like, oh fuck, all of this stuff that has like seemed inspiring and aspirational has actually in some ways just been like a pyramid scheme. And they get me in there and they psych me up and they make me feel like this because they're going to sell me the next thing and the next thing.
And we discussed this last time. We had a conversation on it that, mindset coaching and life coaching is kind of an easy sell because you do tap into that emotion and that vulnerability of the person.
Yeah.
And even myself, I would walk out of these events feeling super inspired. Right? Not that I'm really going to sign up to anything additional, but like I can understand that people that would.
It happened to me with the Landmark Forum. I did the Landmark Forum, and then after that, like they're waiting for you outside, and they're like, "All right, you ready to sign up for the, the seminars and this and that?" And I think I did sign up because there was a group of us doing it. So we did something. Then afterwards, I was like, this isn't for me. Like it's just a bit. I can see what they're doing, and they suck you in because they get you on that high or that energy that you're in.
Yes,
and they're like, okay, she's ready to sign up.
There's so much to learn from that too, right? Like it's not necessarily bad if you have the awareness to witness like what the fuck just happened to me in that I was so ready to take action. We can leverage and harness that, right? Usually there's so much movement, there's positive affirmation, there's a gearing towards a certain thing that you can be like, okay, this works for me. Let me take it into my own life and create my own kind of ritual around taking action. I did Tony Robbins' Inner Circle and it was wonderful and it was fantastic. But once again, it was a repeating pattern of finding myself around people that just didn't have the same values.
Yeah.
And I was older and wiser to be like, your goals fucking do not resonate with me. I don't care about your Ferrari. I don't care about any of these things,
that was some of the stuff that they were saying.
Oh, 100%. And it's meant to, there is this whole conversation around abundance being in the demonstration of like provision in certain ways. There's no wrong and there's no right. It's just what is resonant for me in my life at the moment. But it was a really powerful thing because what I got to experience was contrast. So it's not always, we don't always want to go into spaces where everyone's saying the same thing and thinking the same thing. Like I learned more about myself being in close proximity. This was like, I was like 33 years old to people that I was like, not a fucking vibe. And so rather than sit in the judgment and just have like the skank face at them the whole time.
That was me.
Which I mean, I did that too, right? I was like, okay, I'm having like some kind of reaction here. What's true for me then?
What was that? What was your reaction from? Where was that coming from? Do you think?
Conditioning, society.
Yeah.
A feeling of I actually felt like because I had given so much away, them showing what they had and celebrating that actually just triggered a deep wounding in me. Like, did I fuck my life up?
Because you came from
that. I had that. And now I'm sitting there looking like a nothing and a nobody to these people. Yeah. Can I stand strongly and powerfully in who I am without all the things?
Yeah.
Or do I still need those things to be like, I'm that bitch.
I've got the thing.
Yeah. I'm that bitch.
You had those things. You were like one of the first people to like have a house and get married.
It's Jim Carrey that says like, I hope everybody can get rich and famous in their life to know that that's not the answer.
That's not the answer.
And that was the lesson for me again, to be in this like crowd of people all wanting to talk about the haves and have-nots, to sit there not having any of it anymore, to feel the urge to be like, oh yeah, I had that car too.
Oh yeah.
Why? Yeah. Why do you need them to know that about you? Why do you need them to know that this isn't your first business? I still witness it in myself. That I want to be like, I've been in business for 15 years.
Yeah.
Bitch.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's the rise of social media that people feel the need to like flaunt what they have?
I think that definitely has to be part of it, right? But not necessarily because I
school with bitches like that.
Right. I was going to say I experienced it early on too.
I went to school with them. It's a culture thing as well. Like,
definitely a Western world like the way that we have been raised.
And this city as well, like we're so competitive. Everyone's like
true.
chasing, it's a rat race.
Yes, you know. And so for me, I used to get really frustrated. And I remember even working with some of your girls, was it in like 2020 or 2021?
Maybe 2 years ago, start of COVID, I think.
And other groups of women, I didn't like the way that I felt when I was trying to kind of invite them into conversation about their own internal dialogue, because I felt myself being really like, I just wanted to like let loose and just be like, can you like just wake up to yourself? You are saying dumb fucking shit right now, you know?
Yeah.
But what I realized was I can't push somebody along their journey. I have to respect the fact that, okay, one, maybe this is going to fulfill them. I'm not God. Who am I to say what's going to fill the hole in you that is going to fulfill you? But secondly, like sometimes we have to experience what it's not to then finally be open to like, okay, my 6-pack isn't actually going to fulfill me or bring me love or make me feel like I'm a good person. Okay. And to allow that.
I feel like we like experience that as fitness coaches as well. Like you get these clients that come to you with this goal and they're just constantly making excuses as to why they can't do it. And they're like, just do the work. Like, you've got all of the tools, you've got all the support, the mentoring, like do the work. Like you are the reason. You are the reason. You know what I mean? So I guess like what can people expect when they go to mindset coaching? Because I feel like, and we discussed this last time, like do people need mindset coaching or do they need a fucking therapist? You know what I mean?
Two very different things. And probably both.
Yeah.
For me, like the way that I see it is therapy is being supported in unpacking whatever trauma, and we have all accumulated trauma just by being human beings in this life, we have unconsciously or consciously experienced. And having somebody that actually has the intelligence and the education, not our friends with 2 drinks in them, to say like, okay, this is what you have to do.
You don't need that man anymore.
Girl, you do you.
It's somebody that can support you, and depending on, I guess, you know, how much support you need, it can be a very important thing to have the right person guiding you. A mindset coach for me is in the practical day-to-day experience of yourself as yourself here and now. So the work that I do now as a somatic healer, I don't want to hear about your story. I want us here and now in this present moment, how present can we be to what is happening and what you're feeling and what you're thinking here and now. So to me, that it's 2 very different things.
So
and if you've got,
there you go.
If you have a mindset coach that is constantly wanting you to talk about your childhood and your past and all of that, that's re-traumatizing, potentially re-triggering. There's a lot of harmful shit. Right.
I hate that shit.
Right. Because the discharge of that conversation isn't happening properly either. So you're stirring things up within people and being like, okay, now say these affirmations, bye.
Yeah, right. So true.
That's not it.
Or write that down and send it to me. And it's like, why?
Or rake the snow, the sand. Have you ever done that? They rake the sand when you're talking to your therapist to like calm you down. I'm like, I'm more stressed than ever. I'm not going to rake your fucking sand. But you mentioned somatic healing.
Yes.
So for our listeners, can you tell us a little bit about that and what that's about?
The opportunity to do that. So I have been trained by Sadi Simone, who has pioneered this revolutionary healing modality called somatic activated healing. And basically, like soma means of the body. And so what we're acknowledging when we're doing somatic healing is that our body is kind of the only part of us truly in the present moment. And it's learning, how can I come into the present moment, be with my feelings for many different reasons. And I think for your audience and for your listeners, the power in this is in understanding that what I'm experiencing in this moment is the only kind of truth and reality there is. And so much of what we're suffering in terms of our self-concept, what we believe is possible for us, what we believe is going to get in the way, is either in the past or in an anticipated future that doesn't actually exist. And we're spending so much of our time, energy, resource in this place of delusion, and it is exhausting us, it is tiring us, and it's blocking us from the power that we have to actually make change in the moment that we're in. So it's about learning, how do I actually come into my body to be here now? We hear like be here now all the time, but what does that actually mean? How do I actually embody and inhabit myself? Most of us don't know how to do that. We've never been taught to do that. And we've experienced emotions that have been uncomfortable, and we have protection mechanisms within us that try and stop us from ever feeling that way again. So we learn all sorts of very unhealthy coping strategies to deal with that. You know, some of us just dissociate within our mind. Some of us go to harmful things like the binge eating or the over exercising, or we have lots of different ways to kind of not feel the way that we feel.
Because it's uncomfortable to sit in your feelings, right?
Until you learn that it's not.
Yeah.
Until you learn, like I'm trying not to go too woo in the conversation that we're having here, but like for me, like honoring impermanence has been such a powerful lesson and learning and realization, realizing that nothing actually is permanent, even our own emotion and sensation. And it's only us clinging to whatever the story is that we're telling ourselves that is kind of like tied to the fabric of that emotion that makes it so deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah.
When you learn that it can be safe to be with sadness and to really be with it and to just allow for it and feel it and to truly feel it, you also realize that impermanence means it's always shifting and changing, and it's never actually, we're never just feeling sad.
It's crazy because I went to a funeral the other day, like before we were recording, and it was, I felt so bizarre being at a funeral. Like I've never felt that way before, and I haven't been to one in a couple of years, I think. But I just sat in this room and we were honouring my cousin who passed away. And I was sitting there and I was like, this is just weird. I felt weird about it. Like, I don't know why. I just
because you'd already like healed prior.
I think maybe like I had been, I was okay with it. Yeah. And then I was sitting there, but I was just like, okay, this person's gone now, and now we're honouring your life and we're looking at photos of you and people are crying. And I'm like, but I wasn't crying. Like I cried when I said goodbye, but it was just, I felt it so weird. And then I came here and I changed the energy because I was with you and I was in a different space. But it's right, it's never permanent. And you can choose how you move through those emotions. Like you're in complete control, right?
And it's about honouring all emotions as like valid and equal and allowed to be. If you want to be sad, be sad. I'm sad on the daily about things. I literally cry every day about something on the daily, and then not that I get on with it because I have to get on with it, but I get on with it because I'm available to, okay, what's next?
That's right.
I'm not just in the loop of replaying the story again and again and again.
Yeah.
I talk about cheating in relationships a lot because I have a lot of experience in it. More so to anything else.
Those stories are out. The
Let's go.
Well, my dating life.
But
How much time do we have?
I have that as a very like powerful reference point, right? And it's kind of like the way that we can let ourselves be so hurt in the moment of realization, as if we're actually like dying, as if the person is like doing the deed right in front of us in the moment that it's happening. Nothing's happening in the moment that you're hearing about it. And yet we can feel as if there's like a knife in us again and again and again, but nothing is fucking occurring. Nothing's
like
actually
you're
happening.
Suffocating in this
it's all,
brain.
It's all within you. And when you can let go of like, okay, it sucks. I don't choose it. I don't like it. There is a reaction in my body from when I first heard it. Do I need to retell the story and replay that and have that thought and imagine it and be with it and activate it in my body again and again and again? No. Do we do that? Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Right? We do that. Why?
I do it at 2 a.m. when I'm
right.
out of
right. That's not to say, right, that that's not a really real and true experience for you. And there's no judgment. There's no shame. We all do it as humans. But it is like there's just something to it when you crack that little bit of understanding to be like, this isn't happening right now. I know for me, for whatever reason, showers can be a really like, I don't know, I find myself like in the past in my showers, I'm having like full on conversations with people like in the past, retelling stories, and I can get so fucking angry about something that happened. Like there's a particular scenario that I play in my head from like 6 years ago, and I get so angry that like my body can like shake. I can be ready to like cry and whatever, and I have to catch myself and be like, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Nothing makes you more upset than a scenario that you've made up in your brain. I swear to God. But for people that, you know, I guess all of us would probably come across quite regularly, those that are constantly falling off the wagon, constantly not achieving their goals and coming up to with excuses for why they can't. Yeah. Are these the sort of people that need to go through some sort of healing process to actually eventually reach those goals?
Yeah, because for a lot of what happens is there's like a reactivity that's occurring within them, either within their psyche or within their body or both usually. And it's like we have to like intentionally disrupt the pattern, intentionally disrupt the circuit. And for a lot of people, the reason that they don't continue to kind of take action on their goals, usually it's like the same kind of emotions that come up.
Coming up in a different way. It's the same core things, right?
Yeah. Right. And so a lot of it is just like doubt or insecurity or imposter syndrome or whatever it is that they're experiencing. anxiety, fear, whatever it is. And it's like you're just so chock full of that feeling already, because every time that you've felt it, it's been so uncomfortable for you. You've not allowed yourself to be with it, process it, release it. It's just there, and you're this tight, rigid, like wound up ball of explosion ready to happen, that the moment that you feel that, you don't have capacity to be with it. I can't say to someone who is like just absolutely like soaked in like grief, depression, anxiety, I would never say to them, just be with your sadness. Like what capacity do they have to actually feel any more of that? I've been that person. I had to literally go to another country because I was like, everything around me is triggering me, and I do not have capacity to deal with anything, anyone at all.
How do you deal, like, because now you obviously live in another state
Yes.
completely, so you've removed yourself permanently.
Yes.
2 questions. So how do you deal with coming back to the space that you were in? And I know that's a big thing for you, but I'm really interested to hear you speak about it here.
Yeah.
And how with your husband, who's so happy-go-lucky, he's completely like not opposite to you, but he
is.
Yeah, right. He's just like a good old
country boy.
This must be voodoo to him, like something new. So how does that relationship work?
Yeah. Coming back to my hometown, let's say Sydney, as a changed, transformed person, humbled me and put me on my ass. There's like, I can't think who says the quote, but anyway, it's like, you know, as enlightened as you think you are, if you think you're enlightened, like spend a week with your family and you'll see all of your reactivity, all of your judgment and all of that. So I had to, it's been a big like lesson, ongoing lesson in forgiveness and just allowing, and live and let live is something that I'm really trying to like honor. Like I get to be exactly who I am, and therefore I have to let every single family member or friend or whoever it is that I'm interacting be exactly who they are, and not place expectations on how people have to be and behave and speak. And that's where the somatic work comes into it, right? If you're ripe to be triggered, then you kind of demand that everybody behaves in a certain way so that it doesn't like rub you the wrong way. You want to become like Teflon so people can say dumb shit or just be assholes, and you're kind of like, okay, I see this, but all right, I have the capacity to allow you to be you, because I'm not already so tightly wound up that I can't take another fucking stupid thing that you're going to say. Yeah. And I still am very imperfect. I told my mum to shut up the other day. Yeah. Literally.
Sometimes you have to.
Because she isn't in the same kind of like energy of that with me, right? And so she's a very anxious person. And so we're with my son who's 4, and she points out every perceived danger that is ever around him
they do
all
that.
the time. Yeah. I have the tendency to be anxious. I work really hard on not presenting with full-blown anxiety every day, right? It's something I devote myself to. So I get frustrated when she's just like anxiety on like high performance all the time, because eventually like it rubs off on me. Yeah. And I notice
rubs off on the kids too. Yeah.
I noticed for myself that rather than 2 things happen, I either get really frustrated and angry, or I dissociate completely. So I'm here but not here. And I know it takes a really long time to come back into your body once you've kind of just like existing again. And I existed, remember, for like 10 years. I don't fucking want to do that. I want to be here, present, fully alive in the moment. So I ended up saying to her, like, shut up. We're at the park. I was like, shut up. And of course she got like so upset or whatever. Yeah. And so I still catch myself. I'm like, you know, you make these declarations to do no harm. That was pretty fucking rude. And that's probably hurtful and all of that, you know. Yeah. So I'm very imperfect, and it's a journey and it's a process, but it's just about, you know, the intention that you have to come back and see things as they are, not as you kind of demand them to be. And to take full responsibility for yourself too, you know? Like if I can't handle it, I'm not going to try and manipulate and change people. I don't have to be here. Yeah. I don't have to be here. I don't have to do this. So if I'm choosing to be in her presence, then I have to choose to allow for the fact that this is the expression of who she is at this point in time. I don't get to make that right or wrong. I only get to like be in awareness. How does it feel within me right now? And I was saying, I don't think she'll listen to this podcast, so it's fine. I'm supposed to be here. It's the 30th today. I'm supposed to be here till the 10th of January, and I'm checking in with myself and really feeling into, I don't think I can do that. I don't think that I can do that, and I'm willing to disappoint her. I'm willing for the family to be like, what's wrong with her? She's so flighty. She never can commit to anything. To honour the fact that I don't want to lose my shit at my family. And out of I don't want to be that person again. And get out I'm going to say I have to tap out. Steve, my husband, he's very much a person who is just himself too. And so the thing that I love most about him is that he just respects and honours that I get to be who I am too. he has said to me that in the last 3 years, he's really felt me like just soften. I'm not so hardened. The way that I argue, he says, is very different in that I don't so much argue anymore. I allow him to be imperfect too. So I think it's very much benefited our relationship.
Yeah.
I don't try and talk to him about this stuff.
Okay.
Good. He's not open and available to it. I love talking about spirituality and reading about mindfulness and all of that, but I would never go and just say to him, like, here, read this. I feel like my husband, bless him, enjoys porn. It would be like him being like, hey, watch this video.
Yeah.
Me being like, not really into it in the same way. I'd be fucking offended. I'd be like, why are you showing me this shit?
Yeah.
Right? Same thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be into it. He doesn't need to know of it. He only needs to benefit from the fact that I'm kind of like fully expressed as who I am.
That's so nice.
He benefits.
Yeah.
When I feel good, he feels good, you know? That's the thing.
Do you feel like, as a mindset coach, do you feel pressure from your clients to like fix their whole life? Because I feel like we've got a lot of shit. Like everyone's got a lot of trauma, and I'm sure you would get people that have a lot of shit going on.
Yeah, what's interesting is 9 times out of 10, what people think they're coming to me for ends up not being what we end up working on.
Okay.
And so it's the capacity that I have to kind of like really listen and really allow for that pause and to be asking, and what else?
Yeah.
And we get to kind of like what's the priority, I guess. What is it? And you can't change everybody's life all at once. And like I said, that's like walking through fire. I don't recommend that to many people. And not everybody is in the position to do that. I was young, I was 29, no dependents, basically, you know, all of that. So it's very different. You cannot change all of your life in one session with one coach. I don't think there's ever going to be one person that can be the person that's going to support you in doing everything. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like if we think about like just Western medicine, if something presents, if you have a disease within your body or whatever, you probably have to go to like multiple doctors and specialists, and you want second opinions and, you know, all of that. I feel like it's the same with mindset. It's the same with life transformation. You shouldn't just be talking to one person. You should be like resourcing yourself as much as possible. And if you can't afford a person, it should be the books, it should be the podcasts, it should be the YouTube videos, as much of it as possible.
How can someone, like if they were looking for a mindset coach, what are some of the things that they could ask of that person to see if they would have any benefit or if they could get something out of it?
Such a good question. That integrity piece is really important. I think looking at like how long have they been invested in their own development as a coach? What have they done in terms of best resourcing themselves? Who have they learned from? What has their life experience been like?
Yeah.
Like, what is it about them and their life that you think would expand you? And then an edgy part to this is how unrelatable are they to you?
Okay.
Because for me, I always want to work with someone that's completely unrelatable. There has to be something that they're experiencing in their life in a way that looks like fulfilling to them, that they have some deeper awareness. They've got a key to something that I haven't unlocked yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not about like, I'm a mum, so I can only work with a coach that's a mum. It's going to be like, who is the person that's going to allow me to see the way that I'm seeing the world and offer me just a little widening of perspective, who can reframe things in a way that I have heard it, but I've never heard it like that before.
Yeah.
And it lands for me. So in terms of finding a coach, I think you actually have to spend a little bit of time with yourself first. And we just want to outsource everything. We just want to be like, I don't know who I am, tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me who I am. It's having the audacity and the willingness to sit with yourself and be with yourself. And if that's a dark and dangerous place, you go get yourself a therapist so that you can be supported in then having the courage and the skills and the resource to be able to be with yourself and know and feel, what is it that I need to know? What is it that I need to be supported with? And then trust in your own magnetism that the people will appear before you. Everyone that has been like a huge influencing factor in my life, I haven't actually had to like seek them or search for them. They've kind of revealed themselves to me.
Okay.
You'll see, sorry to interrupt you, but you'll know of so many women that inquire, they ask you questions about what you do.
Yeah.
And you know, like, I can fucking help you, girl. I could help you. And they just don't take the action. They've found you.
Yeah.
So
You're
hard to
right
watch.
there, isn't it?
So hard to
Right?
watch.
So it's about trusting yourself to know that, like, I'm worth the investment. I'm worth kind of just like saying yes to something that is going to expand me.
So what kind of person would really benefit from getting a mindset coach?
Everybody.
Yeah.
I think unless you think that everything that you think is like squeaky clean and you're enjoying the experience of you 24/7,
Yeah.
And if you don't want a coach, it's not necessarily about having a coach, but community that is dedicated to your well-being, your growth, your evolution, and will call you out on the way that you're fixating on a certain emotion or thought, or you have certain expectations for things, and will ask you, how would it feel to look at it this way?
Yeah.
To show you what you're not seeing.
So how do you know if these people are like the real deal? Because like we said before, I feel like it's like the newest buzzword, like everyone's a mindset coach or seemingly on social media, everybody is, or everybody's kind of trying to add it onto their services.
It's always in their list of
there's
things
always
they
something.
offer.
And you know, like even we do, it's not so much about mindset coaching, more about, you know, goal setting and accountability is where we kind of focus in my business. But I feel like a lot of coaches do have that as a service offering.
I think we will never truly know who somebody is, right? It's very hard, and it's about trusting your own discernment. And so that means when you feel like something's off, you trust yourself.
Oh, there's so many off people. I roll like so many, and I'll send it to her and I'll be like,
get a load of this.
And the thing is, right, somebody can be the most experienced person in the world, right? Tony Robbins is a beautiful example for me, because he's
a salesman.
Profoundly powerful, right? But at this point in my life, my value set, how I feel, who I want to be, I'm just no longer in alignment with anything that he says.
You haven't done much
Does
of
that
his work
mean
now?
that he's the real deal?
Yeah.
He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
You know, it's not for me.
Yeah.
And so it's not so much about looking at somebody's like credentials necessarily. It's just about really, truly understanding yourself and who can support me at this time. I've been humbled and taught by people that have not ever been to school. Just through their lived experience and how they see the world and the way that they speak. I'm like, guru, thank you, teacher, like genuinely. So it depends what we mean by like real deal. And it always comes down to like how attuned am I to what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing and what I'm receiving and what it's supposed to be showing me.
And so like working with a mindset coach and like constantly kind of doing that work on yourself, is that like an ongoing thing? Like how can we measure that success? Because I feel like, you know, you work with a fitness coach, you get stronger, you lose weight, you see a transformation. Whereas when it comes to mindset, you can't really see that. Like I know sometimes you might be able to achieve a goal and this and that, but I think when it comes to working on yourself and overcoming trauma and things like that, how do you know if like this coach is for you?
And done what you've...
I'm going to say something pretty, like, I think,
controversial.
edgy.
We love that.
Not so much
We
controversial.
That's a highlight.
No, it's not that edgy. But I think for most people, they think they want mindset coaches, but they don't actually want a mindset coach. Because what a mindset coach is going to do is really teach you how to be truly present and satisfied with what is in the moment. And that might mean that you haven't actually achieved everything that you've set out to achieve yet, but you're okay in this moment. Do I have everything that I've ever desired for myself? No. Can I be okay with that in this moment? Truly fulfilled, satisfied in this moment? Yes. Most people don't fucking want that. They're addicted to the hustle. They're addicted to the drive. They want the craving. They want the compulsion to get them out of bed in the morning. Because without something to achieve, what's the point? It becomes it can be a very dark kind of place within yourself when you realize like all of these kind of superficial goals mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
Then what? I've been through that, you know, then why? Why bother? You know, and that can be a really dangerous and lonely and isolating place. And that's why community is so important to have around you, to have people that have been through it and say, yes, my love, me too. This is what it means to be human.
Yeah, so good, so good. So I guess like, you know, especially coming into the new year, into like, I guess, finish up as well, you know, what kind of advice would you give to someone that's like kind of on the fence about getting a mindset coach?
None at all. I feel like don't take advice from anybody.
Yeah.
Don't take advice. Just
you know within yourself what you need.
Just stop. Yeah, and you probably don't yet because you've spent no time with yourself.
Yeah.
Have the audacity to turn inward. Have the audacity to see whatever is there, even if it's like I'm really sad and lonely and depressed and I hate all my friends and I don't really like my husband right now. Whatever it is, be with it. Be with your truth. And from there, questions will start to arise.
And then you'll start seeking what you're looking for. Yeah,
right. You'll know. If you just kind of decide, it's wild to me that we will look to a new calendar year, which for a lot of us becomes like, okay, this is a really fresh starting point. I'm going to decide exactly what's going to happen this year.
Yeah.
At what point do we realize like it's our expectations that fuck us right up? Stop doing it. Why are we doing it? Just chill, just be. Come into the present moment. It's nice here, promise.
I love that. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I think it was a great insight into mindset coaching. We are going to pop Lena's details below. So if you do have any more questions, please reach out to her, please follow her. And as always, if you enjoyed today's episode, please tag us. We'd love to see that you enjoy it. Until next time,